That would be variable.
Yeah, that's right. Because think, I mean, your iPad's not going to last much more than a year or two anyway, right? So it's very easy to adjust the number of iPads you own over a 5-year run, right? How about over a 2-year run, a corporate campus? Steve, what do you think?
Very durable.
Yeah, I would say that you could make an argument. Why do you think it's very durable?
Well, I mean, if you have a corporate campus, you can't really move around easily in 2 years. It takes time to build a new one.
It usually takes 4 or 5 years to build a corporate campus. So it's pretty hard over a 2-year run to be like, and it's very hard to rent a corporate campus because it has to be customized to you and so forth, right? Max, is your full name Maxon?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, Max. So Max, what about if the run is 1 year and you're thinking about hiring new investment bankers?
Does that mean you're planning to hire them now, or you're
well, so
beginning of the run, or during?
Imagine that the investment bank gets a big shock that increases its demand, and its only input to production is how many investment bankers it has. You know, do you think it's going to be able to adjust that very effectively over that 1 year?
Probably not over the 1 year. It might be able to hire some analysts, but generally it would probably not be enough time to get back into demand.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's, these are pretty fixed over that. And not entirely. It might be possible for them to say, accelerate and, come to some people in Chicago and say, look, if you start and do a little bit of work for us now, but it's going to be pretty tough for them because it takes a while to recruit people who are that skilled, to screen them to make sure they're good, to get them up to speed, right? If you were hiring secretaries, it would be another thing. That you could hire much more quickly, right? How about a 15-year run? Soldiers fighting a foreign war. Luke.
Oh, I think it would be very variable because I think that
Someone close the window. Well, so that was actually a bit of a trick question. The reason is that if you think about how many soldiers you have to fight in a war, that's really a storable, not a durable factor, right? As the U.S. found out during Iraq and in Afghanistan, right? The problem is when we tried to get so many people to fight in the wars, no one was willing to fight anymore because they'd already spent so much time in the army. Everyone in the country who was willing to fight already had, and they'd already done their maximum tour of duty, right? And now we're in real trouble because it's really hard to recruit people. So actually, the longer the run is, the more fixed something is when something's a storable factor like that, right? Because there's only a certain number of people in the U.S. You need to consider what the duration being considered is when you think about whether something is a variable or a fixed factor. Okay. Another thing that that varies over different runs is the relative utilization of different factors. So the more variable that a factor is, the more variable or storable a factor is, the more quickly it adjusts. And the more durable a factor is, the more slowly it adjusts. And so the relative usage will change over time. So, Matt Green? So imagine that, there's a short-run increase in energy demand versus a long-run increase in energy demand. How do you think things adjust to that change in energy demand if it only is in a short period of time versus in a long period of time?
Well, in a short period, they probably couldn't adjust as easily because a long-run adjustment maybe build more plants or a lot more supply lines. That's hard to do in the shorter run. So it would.
So where would the new demand have to come out of in the short run?
I don't know how it would come out.
Yeah.
like you can use like really cheap and like shale drilling, reuse of water.
Well, shale takes a long time to produce, actually, right? So in the short run, the thing you're probably going to do is take a storable factor like oil, which is just in the ground, ready for you to take out of the bank anytime. So if there's a short-run increase in the demand for energy, what happens is that Saudi Arabia pumps more out of the ground, right? On the other hand, if there's a long-run increase, then what happens is people start drilling for shale, which takes maybe 10 years to develop. But if there's a long-run increase that's going to bring up the price for a long period of time, that makes sense, right? So the relative use of these storable versus durable factors depends on the length of time that the increase in demand is expected to last for. Federico, how about seasonal adjustments in agriculture? So those are short duration changes, right? And how do the relative things that the farms use differ across the seasons as a result of that?
So you could have like seed fertilizer would be storable. You have unskilled workers, which would be variable, especially if they're much easier to employ them. And then combines, but I'm guessing there are ways to make combines that would go like from south to north.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So like the thing that you notice, one of the most prominent features of agriculture, right, is that there's a huge inflow of unskilled workers during the seasons when they need a lot of people, and a huge outflow in the other time, but the amount of land under cultivation stays the same the whole time. They don't start like building factories there during one season and then taking down the factories in the next. So the relative amount of land versus labor that they're using varies a huge amount across the seasons because of the demand, the seasonal shifts in the demand. How about the gradual adjustment to the secular trends in medicine? Themistocles? How do I pronounce your name?
Just say Tamas.
Tamas, what about the gradual adjustments to changes in medicine? What do you expect to sort of happen?
You mean if demand for medical services increases?
It's sort of gradually increasing over time, which it is in the United States.
Well, I guess then it will be an incentive for more people to study medicine.
Yeah.
And more hospitals to build.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's right. So the point that Thomas made, which I think is very good, is it's not just that there will be more doctors trained. It's that more schools to train doctors will open, right? And more schools to train professors to train this, people who are in the schools. So if there's this very long-term gradual increase, there's going to be many, many layers of durables that are going to adjust to that, right? The whole society is going to have to change to make that possible. Julie? Is Julie Dorkin here? No. So another thing is, there are two different sources of changes in demand for gold. One is that when people get scared, a lot of people want to buy more gold. Another one is when we went off the gold standard, the demand for gold plummeted, right? And when there are cyclical shifts, because of people being scared, what usually happens is there's less jewelry created, basically. And people melt down their jewelry to give people gold that they can keep. On the other hand, when we went off the gold standard, because that was expected to last for a long time, basically a whole lot of gold mines shut down, right? That wouldn't happen. Gold mines shutting down and starting up wouldn't happen in response to the cyclical patterns because they're not expected to last for that long. Another example of this is the way that governments, especially local governments versus companies, responded to the crisis. Terrence, do you see sort of how that would work?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, so the local governments, because of the Tea Party, right, expected that they were going to be in the crapper forever, basically, right? They said, look, we're just in terrible trouble. We're never going to get any more funding. There's this huge anti-government movement as well as the local economy. We've just got to lay off a ton of people. Whereas most companies said, look, the economy's going to be bad for a couple of years. but we don't really want to lay off very many people because then we're going to have to go and find new people to work for us, right? So companies actually reduced the amount of people that they hired much less than the government did. Because the government expected this would be much more permanent than the companies did. Okay. Now it's not only the expected duration